Izzy from MarketWizards.com and eMiniWizard.com, and we are into the second hour on the 16th of April 2019, and I am reminding traders to use risk capital you can afford to lose. All right, we're taking a quick look at this pullback, and I'm going to try to show our newest trader who is invested in the system some of the ideas that we like to use. This is called retest this breakout. We already know that that was last week's high. We know that this was a third time through trade, and if you look in the notes, I'd suggest that if we got back to this 1475, say 13 and a half, make sure you get paid if you were in a short, because this could be a buying zone, and that assumes that you even got back past the 15 to 16. You got to do that first, obviously, and come back step by step. So right now, we know that the high is held. We know that resistance, we said 22 to 25 stop if you want to try the short side. So we know that trade has worked, and the big boy has chosen to come backwards and do back and fill. So our first target line is going to be, you got to get past these 18s, and you got to get past the 16, and then you try to get to the 13 and a half. So this is basically the start of what we call a 456 trade. All right, so for our new trader, what I'm trying to show you is the importance of understanding proportion. So it's the proportion that really counts. It doesn't matter about the range as much as the proportions. So right now, we have the resistance box. We had the fighting box here, and this is our support box based on this idea. We know that if a big boy really wants to close the gap, which is down here, we've got to get past that middle zone. So we've already got the first part of that trade, which we call a 40 back, and that would be to the top of this blue line right here. So that's your 40 back. And your 50 back, meaning halfway back in the 2-day range, would actually come to this line right here, which is going to be about an 11 and a half area. And if you got a 60 back, which would be considered deeper, that would come down here to this 8 1/4. And all of those are valid, but step by step. So for now, if you want to think conservatively, you're going to make sure you are paid. If you want to have a trailer, that's up to you. But we know we've got rising moving averages. We know that this is the theoretical support zone. But since we're already at the bottom of that, we're now going to think this way, that this is the support box. This is our fighting box currently. And this is now our resistance zone. Simple as that. And we know that if you are short, you want to make sure you get paid something out of this swing. So this retest of the 1475 to 13 and a half is a place where we typically will suggest must be paid if you're short. We know we're going to leave chips on the table sometimes. We know we're going to wait for a buy there sometimes and won't get there and we'll miss the trade. But today, if you were in the trade and you got to this zone, then theoretically you should be paid. So that's basis the weekly range or the 2-day range. We know a big boy's in this trade, or we wouldn't have come this far. It's already told us I like coming short side instead of trying to go higher right now. So our resistance is still back here, 22 to 25, but obviously stops are now moved down. And we started with a notion today to make sure no matter what, that you weren't thinking about just closing the gap, and that we were going to use aggressively this 12 area as our support. So these pieces have fit together pretty nicely. Let's take a look at one more chart. Okay, we know bases are 5 RTH. We bypassed the green line. We bypassed the red line. We've got the blue line still right below us here. And typically you've got to get it above and stay above that blue line to have any posture in terms of like a type of power move moving up. And once we go below it, then it's much more neutral. I believe that this is already much more neutral in that they gave us the half gap trade, and we've got the longs basically who bought today thinking just buy and close your eyes. Those traders are trapped. So typically this is the zone where you probably on a trailer, but if you're scaling, you're already scaling out back here at that 14 to 15, and then good fortune down here, really below the 14. That's my belief.
I like that 1 minute chart on the RTH. That is excellent. I just found a nice new tool.
You like that one?
Yeah, and then I got an indicator in here that is come up here. The current day open, high, low. It follows it down, and it helps me to figure out where the bottom's going to be in relation to the numbers, the zones that we're talking about on the E-mini system.
Beautiful. Now, typically right here is a key idea from yesterday. So we know already that anybody who bought into this today with the idea we're just going up, up, up is getting shaken out.
What is that, yesterday's range?
Yeah, well, this is the RTH, and this was the demon at the end of the day. So already at 12s.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Already at 12s. This is something that I said if we got back to 12, I'd be surprised. And I said, and I don't think we're going to close the gap. So whether we get that or not, immaterial. Anybody's traded short side has got their vig. You can see where this thing turned and caught
There's
a few traders right there.
There's 1150.
Yeah, 975 is actually your gap.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. So, but this is in my opinion, you get to 12, you got to take it and run. And this came back a lot faster than I thought it would. I thought if by the end of the day you got back here, you'd be lucky. So this is a must get paid right there.
I just went.
Okay, and then this is the monthly, and this was yesterday's top here was yesterday's range, top of the yellow circle. And I left this just to show this idea of understanding what we were looking at yesterday and where we said perhaps our next resistance would be. And this is what I meant before when I said that this would be the risk and reward portion of it, and that's why better odds coming back. But you can see where this 11 comes in on this structure, right?
Yes.
So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this based on the interval size. I'll make it the same as this interval. And I'll say, okay, so that's resistance. And I left it that way just to illustrate this. This is our fighting box based on monthly range. And this is our support box. Is that something you can agree with?
Yes, definitely.
Right? Okay, so that's how we use OTF, and this is an OTF chart. It's a monthly chart. So we want to say, what are you guys thinking? The big boys, what are you thinking? They obviously said, oh, I'd rather come back. Better odds coming back than just trying to buy these highs. And we said that was the problem today for longs, risk and reward. So this is a great trade, and obviously anything we get here near this 12 to 11. Thin ice below. We can go any place. I said the one thing I'm not expecting today is get to that 08. If we do that, I'd be very surprised.
Let me backpedal to this gap. What was your reasoning for possibly not filling the gap?
Well, I think this 12 area is going to be a very important zone. Hang on one sec.
If they break,
All right, so anybody that has broken this neckline and understood our dynamics, if we can break the 4, 5, 6, and we said make sure you're paid, come back into the retest zone, then the good fortune comes down here. And the boys really have put quite a number on all of these traders who overnight this program trade. And we said, once you get back down into this zone, this is your primary zone that you know is support until broken. So for now, basis this chart, this is the support that needs to hold for the longs to give them an edge. And this in here is our core based on today's range, the pipe. And this is our resistance back here. So by that alone, it tells us once we get to this 12 zone, anything we get below this, good fortune. And we know where our angel is, right? Our angel is about 10 and a quarter, very tight. So this tells me if you're short and you had a good run, why would you put it at risk? Why wouldn't you at least get something out of this great run?
definitely.
Okay. So that's our support until broken. And obviously, if it breaks, we already know the next target's down here. Hang on. All right, so we can even see based on this, the risk and reward idea, our target line, and the pullback, which basically has stripped out all of the shorts from yesterday, squeezed them, most of them probably not the big boys, but retail took their stops up here and said, now what do we do? And then, okay, I guess it's going long. We buy the pullback, and then they nail all the pullback buyers here. And you can see the power of this 60-minute chart where we're coming back into that 11 to 12 area that I told you I thought would be important today. Here was our retest of the breakout. At 15 zone, we've come back about 3 to 4 points, just enough to shake out a lot of retail traders. So the real key now is getting it back up above this 1475 and staying there or not. So we're going to keep an eye on this going forward. That's very important. So anybody that's had a good morning on the short side, of course, you want more. Everybody wants more. They want to come down and take out yesterday's low. Will we do that? Probably not. That's probably pretty aggressive. But we are going to be trading inside the 2-day range. And that's where this last chart we're going to look at, and then we'll break. Thank you. Sean just said I'm tireless. People have said that about me, not only in this world, but even a couple of years ago, we had a hurricane here, and one lady said, "Man, you're tireless." I was out there working with a crew, and carrying branches and logs and whatever, just help clean up the street. Worked for 3 days like a dog, but it had to be done. And even at my age, I think that's how you stay young. You keep using your body and keep using your mind.
That's why I like you so much. You remind me of a lot of different coaches I've had through my life.
Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. So here you can see why I said I'd be very surprised today if we got to the 08, but you could see that would be a 456. And I said if we got back past the 13 and a half to 12 area, we've done well, and trying to get back to the middle, which is just below where we are. So anything goes in this, and by this chart and the things we've talked about, theoretically, this is our pretty big support zone right here, basis a 2-day range. And this is our pipe, which we spend 40% of the time in this range. So you want to keep your mind open, as open as possible, to where can it go today? Where is it likely to go? And in my opinion, we got lucky getting back in fill. So now it's much more neutral. And we can see the 2-day range that basically has to be negotiated now in terms of bounces. Do they get retest failure and come back deeper? Or in fact, do we hold and then keep going to new highs? And I say that this has been tough because they get you overnight with the long side, then they come back and they come back into the middle, but they don't give you what you want, which would be really to come back and start, closing some of the gaps below us. So it's a tough environment for both the longs and the shorts as we get closer to that all-time high. All right, I'm going to break this video.
Thanks, E.
And
Appreciate it.
you betcha.